This is called Having Tough Talks, or we kind of renamed it Having Difficult Talks. But we did something else too, and that is, get my cursor here. Although it's called Having Difficult Talks, we renamed it Having Important Talks, because what we're going to talk about is that these don't have to be difficult talks. A lot of parents dread certain talks for various reasons, but we believe that if we have the right kind of relationships and that if we can deal with ourselves, they don't have to be difficult talks. God told the Israelites that you're to teach your children. It is the parents' responsibility to teach their children. And he says, impress them, this teaching, and in that case, the laws, on your children. You talk about them when you sit at home, and when you walk along the road, when you lie down, when you get up. So you're supposed to be talking to those kids and having the talks. And it's not just one talk. It's a lot of talks, reinforcing the same kinds of things over and over. So what are we going to talk about? Well, if you listen to the introductions to the different types of lessons we're having tonight that you could sign up for, I don't have to tell you, there's a lot going on with this pandemic. Like they said, they got people who are about at each other's throats. There's more divorces. There's more people in depression. There's all kinds of things going on. And so I'm not sure exactly what each of you are here for, but we are going to talk about, there's a lot of good things to talk about and a lot of needed things to talk about. And we're going to pick just 4 or 5 of those to touch on. Now, we have resources that we've prepared for you in the form of a PDF. And the PDF also refers to a website that I put together that has a lot to help you on a couple of these issues, the sex and pornography issues. We're also going to touch on the racial, and Debbie's going to talk about family dynamics. So are the Jordans some too. Setting boundaries. How do you keep your kids from just spending all their time on those on their phones? So those are the types of things that we're talking about. They're needed conversations, and there are other conversations that you may be thinking about. Now, somebody has said you can't parent. No parent can childproof the whole world. You know how when you get a baby, you childproof your house so that they can't get themselves in trouble. Well, you can't childproof the world so that your child is safe. A parent's job is to world-proof the child. So if you're not teaching your children God's plans for their lives, and in this case, we're going to talk a little bit about sex. If you don't teach children how God looks at sex and his plans for sex and his protections of one of his greatest creations, Satan will give them a plan designed to destroy them and that creation which God so wonderfully designed. As Jesus said, the thief comes only to steal. The thief is Satan, of course, and to kill and destroy. I have come so they may have life and have it to the full. So having the kinds of good conversations, important conversations, are to give our kids and ourselves life. Now, just to illustrate the importance of the talks about sex, and if you were hearing Tony talking about, he started teaching Solomon. When Solomon was about 3 years old, he got these books that teach him about sex, and we'll talk more about that. And Solomon you used to come up and say, my favorite book is The Story of Me. They're age-appropriate books, and he's now up to the 3rd book. And so he's probably not going to have the problems with premarital sex and a lot of the other problems that a lot of other kids will have. And he's asking his parents for information instead of asking kids or looking on his phones and looking at pornography to try to get an education of sex that way. This says, this slide, I think it's just really telling. If people follow God's plan and wait until their wedding night to have sex, the first sex they've ever had, they will have an imprinting that lasts them for their lifetime and helps them to stay married. So the no premarital sex situation only has 5% divorces. If the couple says, hey, we're getting married anyway, come on, what's the harm, and they have sex with each other before they get married, like Debbie and I, we didn't have somebody to teach us these things. So we did that. Now we're going to claim the 80% of still not getting divorced, okay? But it gave us problems, and it goes up to 20% just because you decided not to do it God's way and wait for the commitment of marriage. Now, if you had one other partner in there, it jumps to 50%, and it goes up from there with other partners. And so you can see why we have such a problem with families falling apart and people getting divorced. Pornography is huge. It's a huge problem. I'm not going to tell you, but I know the name. I know that not only the names. I've talked with personally several couples in our congregation who have gotten divorced because of pornography, and have gone into what precedes that usually is a sexless marriage. It may be sexless because the relationship has gone totally terrible. Some of them are sexless because the man cannot be aroused by his wife anymore because he's so into pornography. I want you to look in the resources we give you, look at each of these terrible results of pornography. And pornography, it overtakes people. It is harder to get rid of than smoking, harder to get to rid yourself of the addiction to pornography, and it is extremely addictive. It's harder than getting off heroin. It is just tragic because if you talk to your kids and have them have a built-in filter and understand how important this is, they won't have that lifelong struggle that they may never escape. There is an estimate that over 2/3 of all church-going men are addicted to pornography. And when I say addicted, it doesn't necessarily mean every day, but if a person has not has used pornography within 3 or 4 weeks, they're addicted because they know it's wrong and they can't stop. It causes not only physical and mental illnesses, but it totally trashes your relationships, including with God. When your spouse finds out about it and finally figures out that was what was wrong with our marriage, they're going to have something that is basically PTSD, the same thing that soldiers come back from the war after seeing horrible things. It just tears the person up. So it is the #1 reason for marriages ending in divorce in America. The thing is, you can get these 4 books and you think it's going to be hard to talk to your kids. I'm not sure what to say. These 4 books make it totally easy. And early definitely means easy. If you start talking with a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old about sex, they're very interested. I remember when I was in kindergarten, I was 5 years old, and there's this other little girl. We were playing out in the clover in recess, and we were talking about where babies came from. And we were really interested in all that. We figured it out finally. It was kissing. So that's just some of the misinformation that you get when you don't get the real facts from your parents. People are so misled about everything about sex. If you look at what the TV shows you, it is totally a lie about how this whole thing works. Now, starting early is the key. I know there are other reasons that people find it difficult to talk about sex because their own sexual experiences have not been the best, or they may have been sexually abused. They may have just had a hard time and they didn't do it right, and they may feel guilty. But listen, God gives us a path to overcome those things. And there is nothing more effective than modeling repentance and confession and openness with your kids about these things when they're at the appropriate age to talk about these things. When they ask questions, don't lie to them. So we were very honest with our kids about the mistakes that we made, and they didn't make those same mistakes. Our two girls and our son, they were all virgins at the altar. And because we talked freely and often about sex, they asked us questions. Just like Tony shared that Solomon's always asking him the questions about sex. That's a good thing. Okay, so another good thing about when you are the first one to talk to your kid about sex, first of all, first messages are the most powerful. They stick. It's hard to unstick a first message that somebody hears, to unlearn it and to relearn the right way. So you give it to them first. The other thing is you become the experts in your kids' eyes. They'll think, hey, you're smart. And when they hear other kids saying really stupid stuff, they'll know, oh, these guys are out to lunch. My parents told me the right truth. And the other thing is, if you can talk about sex, it's going to make you feel at ease talking to your kids about anything, and it will also it'll go both ways. So at this point, let's see, I haven't been looking at my notes. Let me at this point we're going to be talking about specifically how do you have those good talks. What is going to make it easy to have great talks with your kids? And I'm going to move over and let Debbie talk about this.
Hey there. I heard a few more dings. I think we have some more people joining us, so that's great. We're talking about relationships. 2 weeks ago, Marshall's sermon really set us up for this talk. I think it's worth going back another listen to. It's a great lesson on just relationships in the kingdom. And he talked about a father and a son, King David and Absalom. And just think, if King David had talks with his son throughout his life, when he was younger, when he's a teen, just think how different history would be. Marshall talked about in Ephesians 4, just speaking truthfully to one another so that Satan will not get a foothold. A scripture that really helps me as a parent, and also in having tough talks with whether it's friends or siblings or whatever, is 1 Corinthians 13, verse 7, love always protects. And I know most of you are thinking, well, I have a great connection with my kid, and that's good. Well, you want to keep that relationship good and open. You want to be approachable so that when they do have questions, you're okay to come and talk to. anyway, we'll get into that in a little bit, just how you can help your connection so that you can have these difficult talks. Now kids won't tell you this, but they get it. When you have a difficult talk with them and they know it's hard for you, but God has put it on your heart that your child needs help in an area. So you push through and you have it. And what happens is they feel loved by you. They know that wasn't easy. And so push through, have that talk, and deep down in, like I said, they won't tell you, but they will feel loved by you. Now, being in lockdown, you're together all the time, right? So, things get kind of crazy and your buttons are all pushed, but keep remembering love always protects. And you might think, we're together all the time. I have all this time for the talk, so you procrastinate. And then it never happens. Really be alert for teachable moments, like especially times like in the car, at bedtime. They don't want to go to sleep, so you got to really, that's a good time. It's a time to have talks because they don't want to go to sleep. So you just pick that time to have a good talk. The thing is, if you wait too long and the kids are a little bit older, then they have been hearing some lies and it'll be harder really to get through to them. So you start younger, they see you as the smart go-to person. When they get curious, they're going to come to you like, hey, I heard this word on the school bus or at the playground. What's it mean? They come to you, not a neighbor, because you're approachable. Now, I think many times parents put off having the talks because of just some past personal baggage that makes them not want to go there because they feel bad about their life. And so they keep putting off the talk. Well, if that's the case for you, get some help. Push through that so that your child won't end up having that same baggage. And also, actually, I've heard that just some false thinking, well, I want to put these talks off because my child is innocent. I want to keep them innocent for a little while longer. Well, they won't be innocent if you wait when you see that it was the right time. Okay, now, here's 4 things to help you keep on having a good connection with your child. The first is you be a good example of monitoring your screen time. And it shows that you care. Research shows that the amount of time that you spend on your phone or your screen, it may impact your kids as much or even more than their own screen use. And researchers call it, listen to this, continuous partial attention. And it's very damaging. It's kind of like having one eye scrolling through Facebook and the other eye on the family Uno game. And the kids, they know what's going on. Now, 40 years ago, my oldest daughter, and I didn't have a cell phone, but I'm a multitasker. And she said, Mommy, I want you to talk to me with your eyes. And she was only about 4. But I got it that she wanted me to look at her and really connect, really be present with her. So I got it. Now, the second thing is notice changes, especially during this 2020. There have been a lot of scary things, a lot of things that make me anxious, that make me sad, that make me scared. My friends or family members are getting sick. That is scary. So even when you yourself don't have all the answers, just say to your kid, you know what? This is hard, but you know what? I'm here for you. I'm going to help you. We'll get through this. It'll be okay. And it just shows you care. You're connecting with them. Now, another thing is notice or just regulate your own emotions. There's a lot going on, and you know, everybody's emotions are like over the top. Now, if your emotions and your reactions are just really strong most of the time, your kids eventually will be like, oh, forget going to her. I don't want the drama. And so you don't want that. So work on regulating your emotions. And when you blow it, which I did many times, you apologize. You say, oh, wow, I'm sorry. That was way over the top. Please forgive me. And then also help them with their emotions. Give their emotions a name. They don't know what it is. And like the feeling chart that I'm sure a lot of you have seen, that helps me to put a name to it and reassure them. They need to feel listened to, and that you're helping them with their emotion. Again, it shows that you care. You're a safe place for them. And when you blow it, you apologize and say, wow, we can start over now. Like here's some phrases I think could help. Wow, this is hard. I will help you through it. Wow, let me write this down. I want to remember that. That's really, really good. Or wow, how was that for you? Or tell me more. And also, I think this is great, especially our son David liked it. Use fantasy. Like say, you know what? I would love to just wrap that coronavirus up, put it on a rocket and send it to the moon. And, you know, they're like, oh, wow, she gets it. So use some fantasy. And what I'm talking about is when you have a good connection with your kid and keep that up, then you can talk about anything. And then they also know that they can bring anything to you because you're safe. Now, this is the last one, and it's a short one. Use few words. I told you it was short. You know, Charlie Brown's teacher, what he hears is wah, wah, wah. He doesn't really hear her talking because he just hears this lecture. So use few words. Usually, if there's a lot of words, there's stress and tension. I've seen that in my life. And so let's say, okay, everybody's home all the time. There's toys everywhere. There's clothes in their room. Just say, point to the toys with a smile, eye connect and go, toys. Or in their room, you go, clothes, you know, and they know exactly what you're getting at. And so what I'm getting at is just keep on working on your connection. And if you ever notice a change, be like a detective and figure out, okay, what do we need to repent of here and figure it out. Thanks.
Okay, it's time to switch it over to the Jordans. And so if the Jordans can unmute their mic, and there they are. And we're going to pin them. There we go. You got to unmute. Oh, I probably haven't given you permission to unmute yet. So let me do that specifically for these guys. Let's see. Come on. Jordans. Asked to unmute. Can you unmute now? There we go.
Oh, yeah, I heard. I
All
can
right,
hear you.
we got you.
All right, thank you, Barry.
All
Well, hello again, everybody. And, this is, again, James Jordan and Amaris Jordan. And we are the proud parents of Jaden and Ariana. And Jaden is a sophomore now in high school. And Ariana is on her first year of middle school. Yay!
Our kids are very different. They could not be more different than what they are. Jaden is a very thoughtful kid, caring. He is very patient, and he just loves to overthink everything.
Now, Ariana, on the other hand, she's loving, she's funny like this guy here sometimes, yeah. Independent and very impulsive.
We learned a while ago that what works for one doesn't necessarily work for the other. Hold on. Let me go. And it necessarily, when I talk to James, I can't talk the same way to the kids. I'm sorry, I have a camera here and a computer here, so I'm trying to figure out where to look. During these difficult talks with kids, and I think every day, one of the things that we need to do with our kids is to give them respect. We need to learn to respect our children.
Correct.
We often, we ask for that respect from them, but sometimes we just don't give it to them.
Yeah.
This week, I participated in a conference call. The theme of the call was Raising Resilient Kids. And one of the things that he really pointed was that we need to be, we don't need to be concerned on the fact that our kids are not listening.
Yes.
We really need to be concerned with the fact that our kids are always watching us. Barry laughs because he knows it's true. We believe that our home is where our kids believe, where kids learn to respect themselves and others. I wanted to talk about 5 things that I think will help you with some of those conversations, and it will help your kids learn that respect and gain that respect from you. So the first one is, let your child know that they were created by God in their image, and it is absolutely wonderful. God doesn't make any mistakes. So their uniqueness, it is an amazing, a great thing. The second thing that I think is a little bit, I think I tend, because when something goes wrong, I get nervous and I laugh a lot. So I need to grab myself sometimes, is respond to their mistakes with grace.
Yes.
That means refrain from laughing, or don't yell when things go wrong. Things are going to go wrong in both sides. They will do things that are not correct, and we will do things that are not correct. But being able to talk through it, it's going to teach them. And just like Debbie said, they know you care. They really, really deep inside know that you care. I think sometimes our kids expect something goes wrong and they're kind of like, well, what's my punishment? And we're like, well, let's talk about first what took place, what happened, and then we'll talk about the punishment. The third one is, just like Debbie said, when you're talking with your kid, look at them, give them your full attention, remove all distractions, including your phone. This week I was doing homework with Ariana, and it was negative numbers. I'm telling you, 6th grade math is like really a struggle for me right now. And I had the phone with me trying to Google out some of the things that I was trying to explain to her. But in the moment, I found myself opening Facebook. So I looked at James, he was walking by, and I said, you know what, James, put this phone away so I can give Ariana full attention. And I did it purposely. So she saw that I made the mistake, that she can hold me accountable to what I just said. And for her to understand that, you know, I didn't mean to, but it did happen, but we're gonna make it right. So just always let them know that they are that important to you by just doing that one-on-one with them. The fourth one I would say is allow your children to speak. Don't make light of their feelings. If they're telling you, if you guys are having a talk, it is important to them. Listen.
Yes.
It's very easy, I think, sometimes for us to share our experiences and want to chime in and tell them automatically what to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not looking for us to fix it. Sometimes we need them to come up with a solution on their own. We'll discuss the solution, but that's the learning process as well. And make sure that you're there to just give them a hug, because if they're coming to you or you're going to them, they need you. Your kids need you, especially with everything that it's going on right now. And the fifth one, I would say, build them up. Don't ever lose an opportunity to encourage their character. Exactly. When something goes wrong, when you're talking about disciplining them, address that behavior.
Yes.
It's not your kid. It is the behavior. And talk about what the issue was. And talk through it. Be patient. Let them, sometimes they figure it out. Sometimes they're telling you and you're just, okay, so what could we have done different? What could you have done different? What would have been another outcome that you think that, you would have wanted from whatever situation? And then by them talking through it, they figure it out.
Yes.
They learn. So just listen. I'm one of those that I'm a point person. I want it to get to the point right there and then, but I can't do that. My kids are learning. This is a process and I have to give them that chance. And I think by us having those talks, our relationship gets stronger. My time with Jaden, it's bedtime. He goes to bed 30 minutes after her. And we all go, I put her to bed and then we go, I go to his room and we sit down. And while he's in bed, we're just talking. We can talk about nothing. I actually watched all the Star Wars movies during this pandemic because him and James are always talking about it and I'm always lost. So say, you know what, let me watch them just to see. It didn't help. I'm still lost. But he appreciated the fact that we took the time to do something that he likes, that I tried. It didn't work again, but I tried. And, in some of the times that we were watching, he would come over and he would explain me rather than me always being like, what happened there and what happened here. But it's just by building that relationship with him, I think it helps us it helps us on having these talks. When we have to have these talks, it just helps. So just let your kids know how much you love them. We do strive every day to be better parents that we were the day before.
Yes.
We fail constantly. So they know that we're trying. They do know that we're trying. And again, I think the fact that they know that we love them, it really, really helps.
Definitely.
So I'm going to get James now to talk about social media.
Yeah, and just covering just a couple of pieces on that end. One thing to keep in mind, and because I'm your social media guy, we must create a safe place where limits and boundaries are the norm. And I'm going to repeat that because it's very important. Creating a safe place where limits and boundaries are the norm. Because with this pandemic going on and all the ever changing things in social media, no matter how old your kids are, it's very important to know exactly what's going on around us. And if we set a clear and a strict boundary example to keep them on track, then our kids don't have to worry about social media when they talk to their friends and they do all these different things and everything else. And just to give a couple of tips on what we do within our household. And I look at it this way because I'm working on the computer all the time. I'm working for the internet. It's kind of like looking at the way that a lot of these individuals that work at the big companies like your Facebook and your Google, they don't allow their kids, a lot of them, to get on the social media, even though they're the creators of it. And we have kind of taken that approach as well,
Yeah.
that we don't allow them to use social media at all. Their GroupMe account for the teens is our GroupMe account. The way our rules go in the house is that with Jaden, he does have a cell phone. His cell phone stays downstairs in the kitchen when he's not using it. It's charging down in that base. And on top of that, anytime that he get a call from one of his friends or what have you, that is an open space. The way everything works is that Ariana, she's a middle schooler, they call mom's phone. Those conversations that both of them have, we're in tune with all of those conversations. And looking at the fact, not only with the technology and the social media, but understanding that at the end of the day, if we don't create the right boundaries for them to take a look at, then as they get older, they won't have the actual idea to kind of do the things to control that behavior. Because like what was already repeated is that if we set the example, then we can show the right way to utilize this great technology that we have, but it teaches our kids to control their own behavior. And it's good when you think about it, if you ask your children, hey, what do you think is a reasonable time that I can spend on my device, you know? And we always have these conversations about Jaden with video games. There is a 3-hour video game time on the weekend only. And we have to stick to that with the best way that we can. And there may be times, and we do have to be honest, that there have been times during this pandemic that we've been lax and we've let him play a lot.
Extra time.
Yeah.
He's trying to take advantage of that too.
And we've seen some of the repercussions in that regard, that he doesn't sleep. There could be irritableness or what have you. But keeping in mind that setting those boundaries and giving them a step and a plan to use their own example and control how they use their time is highly important. And going back to the social media aspect of it all, when the kids are using social media, the pictures, the actual videos, the text messages, all of this information, as soon as those kids hit send, it's out there. It's not going to stop. It's something that you cannot actually get away from. In one small glimpse, I can give you a small story of my niece applying for a job. And because she did something on social media, and she's about 27 years old, and looking at the fact of how long we've been utilizing social media, employers take a look and see exactly what your habits have been. And we have to kind of prepare our kids for the world with this great mass medium, and understand that, I hate to say it, but it's true, but all of these companies, Facebook, Twitter, we love them so much. They don't have our best interest in heart. They have the best interest for their shareholders and their bottom line. They create ways for us to utilize those great services, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is their profit margin. So when we look at the behaviors that we get out of it, it's us as parents, we must control exactly how we go about using social media in our homes, and also basically keeping in mind that at the end of the day, we have to do this, and you have to do this as well. You have to control how your kids use social media.
So back to you.
All right. I am going to now, we are now going to be having question and answer. And so I'm going to allow you participants to unmute yourself.